Hey yo, salute to the people. It's the social forecast. Today is Saturday. It's about 1 a.m. in the morning. And I hope you all did something today to further your goals and to help you realize your dreams. Alright, let's get into it. I apologize for the low light. I'm just kind of enjoying this nice fall weather. But let's get into it. I came across a New York Times Twitter post about a Michigan police officer who was terminated because in the process of selling their home, they were giving a tour to a prospective buyer. And that prospective buyer came across a framed Ku Klux Klan application in that officer's home, took a picture of it, posted it on social media, and it blew up from there. Now here's what I want to talk to you about, because I know what some of you may be thinking. It's not against the law to have such a thing. It's within a person's rights to have whatever they want to have in their home. They're not breaking the law. They're not physically hurting anyone. What the fuck's the big deal? Why did this police officer lose their job? And then there are those of you who will understand why. But for those of you who don't, because that's what this platform exists for, I'm going to explain it. Now look, yes, if you're not doing anything to physically hurt anyone, if you're not breaking the law, yeah, the government should not be able to tell you what you can or cannot have in the privacy of your own home. Cool. I rock with that. I get it. But there are certain jobs, certain positions in today's society that would look deeper into the belief systems of a person, the mindset of a person, and certain things present to be a red flag. So I would first of all like to salute this police department that decided that this officer should be terminated, because you don't want someone who's carrying a deadly weapon, who's wearing a badge, who has the authority over civilians to a certain extent, who thinks this way. Because, and I'm gonna paint this picture slowly. I'm gonna start from the beginning, I'm gonna go to the end. So consider this. If you're one of the people watching this who don't see an issue, or who came across the story and don't see an issue, how do I want to start this? All right, so legally speaking, right, as citizens, legally speaking, we are pressured and we are forced to a degree, to varying degrees, to put our trust into law enforcement. And as members of present day society, we are pressured by civilized society, socially pressured to put our trust into law enforcement. Any first responder really, but particularly police officers. You see a badge, you see the uniform. It's supposed to instill trust. You're supposed to want to go to those people for not just help, but also feel safe and feel like you're putting not only your life, but whatever situation in the hands of this person who are going to be unbiased, even-tempered, not have anything against anyone's sexual orientation or preferences or skin color, race, belief system, religious or otherwise. Not somebody who's ageist and has something against elderly people, or not someone who thinks that all young people are fucking hooligans. These are the people who you don't want wearing badges. These are the people who you don't want having deadly weapons on their person. That's part one. Part two to that is, let's paint a parallel picture. I have worked in jobs throughout the entirety of my adult life, and being in my mid-30s now, where I come across dozens and dozens on a daily basis of elderly people. I'm talking people in their twilight years, people who were around during the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, a time period that wasn't too favorable for my people in this country. I don't consider it to be a reach to assume that a fair enough amount of those elderly people that I come across, at least at a point in their lives, looked at my people in an unfavorable manner, to put it mildly. I'm sure that I've come across plenty of elderly people, because sometimes you even get the vibe, who may have straight out practiced in hate and racism at a point in their lives. Now, when you're young, you can't really fault the person, because all you have in your youth is the influences that you're brought up around. Hate is taught and it's learned. You're not born with it. A lot of elderly people, as they get into their twilight years, might change how they view things of that nature. That's contrary to my belief that most people don't change. Most people at the character level do not change, barring very few exceptions. I always say that it takes life-altering experiences for a person to change. And even then, it's not usually drastic changes, not at the core level, not at the character level. But it would be reasonable to assume that a person in their twilight years might not want to leave the world surrounded by the same energy they came into the world with. That's cool. On a basic level, that's easily understood. But a person who would have a Ku Klux Klan application framed in their home presently clearly still holds on to some remnants, at the very least, of the views that were expressed and carried out by that organization. And I'm calling an organization, being politically correct, it's a fucking terrorist group, in my opinion. I don't want a person like that wearing a badge. I don't want a person like that carrying a gun. I don't. Because clearly you have some issues that you either have not been able to work out or do not see a need to work out. And you should not be wearing a badge. You should not be carrying a weapon. You should not have the authority to take a person's freedom. You should not have the authority to be able to make the decision to use deadly force. Not when you're the kind of person who thinks that it's an okay thing to have a framed application to be a Ku Klux Klan member hanging in your home. And I salute that person who had the presence of mind enough to take that picture and post that on their social media, and to ultimately have that officer be removed from duty because that person's not fit for duty. And I don't have to meet this person. I don't know this person. But you're not fit for duty if you think that a thing like that is okay. Because it's not. We live in a world now where, even though racism still exists, and in my opinion will always exist on some level, people understand now that you cannot outwardly express that racism without ramifications. It's still done, it's still attempted, but most people who are reasonable in their thought process understand that there's going to be some consequences for that shit, and there very well should be. So I would be interested to know what y'all think about this story. Do you think that this officer should not have been terminated? Do you think that this officer was rightfully terminated? If not, why not? If so, why? This type of shit that I cover on this platform, because it's necessary. As long as stories like this are out there, and as long as things like this continue to happen, it's shit that continues to be in need of the conversation being had. I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.